We don't need your ideas anymore. Victoria Hale's voice cut through the boardroom like a knife through silence. I stood frozen mid-sentence, my presentation clicker still raised, the next slide waiting on the screen behind me. The CEO's daughter leaned back in her chair, examining her perfectly manicured nails as if she hadn't just interrupted the most important pitch of my career. Around the executive table, 12 faces turned from my presentation to Victoria, then back to me. Nobody spoke. The projector hummed quietly, displaying my revenue forecasts that suddenly felt meaningless. I'd spent 3 years developing this customer retention platform, working nights and weekends, sacrificing everything to make Hale Industries more profitable. Victoria smiled, that same practiced smile I'd seen her use on vendors she was about to fire. I think we're done here, Elena. You can go. My hands trembled as I reached for my laptop. 3 years of loyalty, of putting this company before my own health, before relationships, before everything. And it ended with 5 words from someone who'd never worked a real day in her life. I closed my laptop slowly, the click echoing in the silent room. Nobody met my eyes as I walked toward the door. I made it exactly 3 steps down the hallway before I heard Victoria's voice again, bright and confident, resuming the meeting I'd just been dismissed from. Curiosity made me pause near the door, still slightly ajar. Now, let me show you what I've been working on, Victoria announced. I heard the familiar sound of a presentation starting. I call it the Customer Loyalty Revolution platform. It uses predictive analytics to identify at-risk customers before they leave. My blood went cold. Those were my exact words. The words I'd written 6 weeks ago in my proposal document. I stepped closer to the door crack. Through the gap I could see the projection screen. My graphs, my data models, my 3 years of research, presented with Victoria's name in the corner where mine should have been. She'd changed the color scheme from blue to purple, added her initials to the logo, modified a few slide transitions. But the core, the algorithm, the implementation strategy, the revenue projections, it was all mine. She stole it, I whispered, my voice barely audible even to myself. My entire body felt numb as Victoria's confident voice continued explaining my life's work to executives who should have heard it from me. I burst back into the boardroom without knocking. All eyes turned to me, surprise registering on every face except Victoria's. She looked merely annoyed, like I was a persistent mosquito interrupting her garden party. Mr. Hale, I addressed the CEO directly, my voice shaking despite my effort to stay calm. That's my project, my research, my 3 years of work she's presenting right now. Victoria laughed, actually laughed. Elena, this is embarrassing. I developed this platform independently. If there are similarities to your work, well, great minds think alike. The CEO, Theodore Hale, the man I'd respected for years, looked between his daughter and me. I saw the calculation in his eyes, weighing loyalty against truth. When he spoke, his voice was measured and diplomatic. Elena, I appreciate your contributions to this company, but Victoria will be leading our customer retention initiatives moving forward. She's demonstrated exceptional vision for this project. The words hit like physical blows. You can't be serious. I have emails, documentation, everything showing. That's enough. His tone hardened. This meeting is concluded. I looked around the table one last time. Silence. Every executive studied their notebooks or screens. Not one person would meet my eyes. Then I'm done here, I said quietly and walked out. I made it to my car before the shaking started. My hands trembled so badly I couldn't get the key in the ignition. 3 years. 3 years of arriving first, leaving last, missing family dinners, canceling vacation plans. 3 years of believing that hard work and loyalty mattered. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, fighting back tears that threatened to blur my vision. In my mind, I replayed every late night in the office, every weekend spent testing algorithms, every time I'd chosen work over life because I believed I was building something meaningful. 3 years of loyalty, I whispered to my empty car. Gone. But even as I said it, something shifted inside me. Not gone. The word felt wrong. Victoria had my presentation, my slides, my superficial work. But the deep knowledge, the understanding of why the algorithms worked, the hundreds of small insights that made the platform actually function, those were still mine. I lifted my head and stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red but no longer weak. "No," I said firmly, slamming my palm against the steering wheel. "Not gone. Stolen." The distinction mattered. My phone buzzed continuously during the drive home. Text messages from coworkers, each one a variation of the same theme. "I'm so sorry about what happened. That was brutal. Are you okay? Can't believe Victoria did that." By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, the HR email had arrived. Subject line: severance package and next steps. They'd already prepared my exit paperwork. Victoria must have planned this for weeks, timing my termination to coincide with stealing my project. I scrolled through the company's Slack channel on my personal phone. Someone had already posted about the exciting new direction under Victoria's leadership. The responses were cautious, diplomatic. Nobody wanted to end up like me. One message stood out from Marcus in accounting. "Guess we know what happens when you threaten the golden child's position." Threaten. I'd never seen it that way. I'd just been doing my job, doing it well. But to Victoria, competence was competition. I opened my laptop and stared at the company email icon. 3 years of correspondence, project files, documentation. Then I clicked delete account. As the confirmation message appeared, I whispered to my screen, "Watch me." I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled out my personal notebooks, the ones I'd kept separate from work. Every real innovation started here, in handwritten notes during my morning coffee, on napkins during lunch breaks, in midnight brainstorming sessions at my kitchen table. The customer retention platform hadn't started in Hale Industries' sleek offices. It started here, in my cramped apartment, 18 months before I ever mentioned it at work. I'd noticed patterns in customer behavior while analyzing data for a completely different project. The insight hit me during a random Tuesday lunch break. Customers didn't leave because of price or product. They left because companies stopped paying attention. I remembered the moment I first shared my preliminary findings with Victoria. It was 7 months ago. She'd stopped by my desk, playing the friendly colleague, asking what I was working on. I'd been excited to share, to get feedback from someone close to the CEO. "This is fascinating," she'd said, her smile warm and encouraging. "Send me what you have so far. I'd love to help you develop it further." It sent everything. Every algorithm, every data point, every insight. Like an idiot, I'd trusted her. Now, staring at my original notes, I remembered her face that day. That smile. It hadn't been friendly. It had been calculating. Morning came with a clarity I hadn't expected. While Victoria had my corporate presentation, she didn't have my understanding. She'd stolen the what, but not the why or how. The real platform, the one that would actually work, existed only in my mind and these personal notebooks. I opened my laptop, my personal one, free from any company ties, and started rebuilding. Not copying what I'd made for Hale Industries. Improving it. Every flaw I'd noticed, every limitation I'd planned to address, every enhancement I'd considered but hadn't had time to implement. This time there would be no corporate bureaucracy slowing me down. No executives demanding changes to fit their limited understanding. No Victoria hovering, pretending to help while positioning herself to take credit. My fingers flew across the keyboard, coding the foundation of something better than what Victoria had stolen. I worked through breakfast, through lunch, through the sunset that painted my apartment walls orange and gold. As midnight approached, I leaned back and studied the elegant code on my screen. A smile touched my lips for the first time since yesterday's disaster. "This time," I whispered to my reflection in the darkened window, "it's mine. All mine." Reality hit hardest on Monday morning when I started job hunting. My phone stayed silent. Every application disappeared into the void of automated rejection emails or, worse, no response at all. By Wednesday I understood why. I called an old colleague from a previous job, someone who'd always been honest with me. Elena, Marcus said carefully. There are rumors. People are saying you were difficult to work with at Hale Industries. That you couldn't handle feedback and became combative when your ideas were challenged. That's not what happened. I know. But Victoria's got connections everywhere. She's the CEO's daughter. Her version of events is spreading faster than truth ever could. I hung up and stared at my bank account balance on my laptop screen. 3 months of savings, maybe 4 if I was careful. After that, I'd be forced to take any job, abandon my platform, let Victoria's theft stand unchallenged. That night, I updated my resume for the 100th time, each rejection making the words blur together. My eyes burned from screen fatigue and unshed tears. I'll make my own job, I said to my empty apartment. The words sounded brave. But my dwindling savings account balance made them feel hollow. The coffee shop meeting was supposed to be a courtesy catch-up with Bethany, my college roommate. She'd messaged me after hearing about my exit from Hale Industries, offering sympathy and a chance to talk about old times. I almost cancelled. I wasn't in the mood for pity or advice. But rent was due in 2 weeks, and leaving my apartment meant I'd stop obsessively refreshing job sites that never responded. Bethany arrived 15 minutes late with someone unexpected, a man in his 40s wearing an expensive suit but a friendly expression. Elena, this is Aaron Keller, Bethany said as they sat down. He's an investor friend. I might have mentioned your situation. Aaron ordered coffee and got straight to business. Bethany tells me you developed a customer retention platform that predicted user behavior with 93% accuracy. 95% in the final version, I corrected automatically. But someone else is taking credit for that work now. Victoria Hale. I know. He pulled out a tablet. I also know her version is crashing during beta testing. Bad code, worse implementation. She's got your PowerPoint slides but none of your actual knowledge. Hope flickered in my chest. How do you know about the crashes? Aaron smiled. Because I pay attention to companies making predictable mistakes. And I bet on people who can fix them. He slid a contract across the table. Build your real platform. I'll fund the prototype. The next 6 months became a blur of code, testing and iteration. Aaron had provided enough funding for a small team, just me and 2 brilliant developers I'd worked with years ago. We operated out of my apartment, which transformed from a living space into a startup headquarters. The platform I built wasn't just better than what I'd created at Hale Industries. It was revolutionary. Instead of simply predicting which customers might leave, it identified exactly why they were dissatisfied and automatically triggered personalized retention strategies. By month 4, we had our first working prototype. By month 5, we debugged most of the critical issues. And now, in month 6, I sat staring at my laptop screen at 2 a.m., watching our final test run complete with 0 errors. The numbers were perfect. Customer retention rates in our simulation improved by 42%. Revenue projections showed profitability within 6 months of implementation. Done it. Built something better than what Victoria had stolen, something that actually worked. The tears came suddenly, unexpectedly. They weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were relief, pride, and exhaustion all mixed together. My shoulders shook as I cried silently over my keyboard, careful not to wake my sleeping developers on the couches in my living room. Aaron had believed in me when nobody else would. Now I had proof he'd been right. The setback came without warning. Aaron called on a Tuesday morning, his usually cheerful voice tight with stress. Elena, we have a problem. My main investment portfolio just took a major hit. Market volatility. I need to pull back on all speculative funding for at least 3 months. 3 months. We had enough runway for maybe 6 weeks. And that was if we cut all non-essential expenses. What does that mean for us? I asked, though I already knew the answer. It means we pause. Not quit, pause. This platform is too good to abandon. But I can't inject more capital right now. After we hung up, I sat in my silent apartment and stared at the code I'd been working on. 6 months of effort, of rebuilding myself from nothing, of proving I could create something meaningful. And now it might all stop because of market forces completely beyond my control. I walked to my bathroom and studied my reflection in the mirror. I looked exhausted, older than my 31 years. But my eyes held something they hadn't 6 months ago. Determination. You've already survived worse, I told my reflection. You survived being stolen from. You survived being erased. You can survive this. I returned to my laptop and started documenting everything, preparing for the day when funding would return. Against all odds, we decided to launch anyway. Aaron couldn't provide more funding, but he helped with connections. We rolled out a stripped-down version of the platform, targeting small businesses who couldn't afford enterprise solutions but desperately needed help retaining customers. The first week brought 3 clients. The second week 7 more. By the end of the first month, we had 22 small businesses using our platform, and every single one reported improved customer retention. The revenue was modest, barely enough to cover our minimal expenses. But the feedback was incredible. Real businesses, run by real people, were succeeding because of something I'd built. One restaurant owner in particular, Carmen, sent an email that I printed and hung above my desk. Your platform identified that we were losing customers not because of food quality, but because we took too long to respond to reservation requests. We fixed it in 48 hours. You saved my business. That evening, as I reviewed our modest profit margins, I found myself laughing. Actually laughing for the first time in 6 months. The sound felt foreign in my apartment but wonderful. We weren't rich. We weren't famous. But we were real and we were growing. And somewhere Victoria's stolen platform was failing. The rumors started circulating through my network around month 8. Former colleagues reached out with cautious messages, asking if I'd heard the news about Hale Industries' customer retention division. I hadn't. I'd been too busy building my own success to pay attention to theirs. But the news was delicious. Victoria's platform, my stolen presentation with her inadequate implementation, had launched to major corporate clients. And it was a disaster. The algorithms crashed during peak usage. The predictions were wrong more often than they were right. Customers were furious, threatening lawsuits. Tech blogs were calling it one of the most overhyped failures in recent memory. One article particularly caught my attention. Hale Industries' daughter crashes her father's legacy, a case study in nepotism over competence. I read it 3 times, each time feeling a different emotion. First vindication. Then genuine curiosity about how badly she'd broken what I'd built. Finally something unexpected, pity. Not for Victoria, but for the good people still working at Hale Industries, watching their reputations suffer because of her incompetence. I closed my laptop and allowed myself one small smile. Of course it is, I whispered to my empty apartment. The phone call came from an unexpected source. Marcus from Hale Industries' accounting department, someone I'd barely known during my time there. Elena, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from Bethany. His voice was nervous, speaking quickly. I wanted you to know what's happening here. Kiss. Victoria's division is hemorrhaging money. The CEO is in emergency meetings constantly. She's in way over her head. Why are you telling me this? Because it's not right what they did to you. Everyone knows now. We've seen Victoria's code. Well, the developers have. They said it's like she copied someone's homework but didn't understand any of the answers. He paused. People are starting to talk. Some are saying the company should have kept you instead. After we hung up, I sat with this information. Part of me wanted to feel triumphant. But mostly I felt validated. I hadn't been crazy. I hadn't been difficult. Been right. I called Aaron and relayed the conversation. His response was immediate. This is interesting. Very interesting. Interesting how? I'll explain at lunch tomorrow. But Elena, this might be bigger than just vindication. This might be an opportunity. The recruiter's email appeared in my inbox 3 days later. A competitor to Hale Industries wanted my expertise developing their customer retention systems. The salary offered was triple what I'd made before. The title was Director of Innovation. They'd give me a team, resources, and creative freedom. It was everything I should want. I stared at the offer letter for hours, reading and rereading the terms. This was my escape hatch, my chance to return to stability, to prove to everyone who'd doubted me that I had value. But something felt incomplete. When I called the recruiter back, her voice was bright with expectation. "Ms. Brooks, I hope you're calling with good news. When can you start? I appreciate the offer, truly, but I need to decline." Silence. Then, "May I ask why?" "This is an exceptional opportunity. Because there's something else I need to finish first." After hanging up, I texted Aaron. "I'm all in. Whatever plan you're developing, count me in." His response came seconds later. "Good. Because what I'm about to propose is either brilliant or insane. Possibly both." Our platform hit a tipping point in month 11. A mid-size retail chain with 150 locations tested our system and saw customer retention improve by 37% in just 2 months. They wrote a case study. Then another company tried us. Then 5 more. Suddenly we weren't a scrappy startup anymore. We were a proven solution. A business magazine reached out for an interview. I almost declined, preferring to stay under the radar. But Aaron convinced me otherwise. "People need to know who really built this," he said. "Not for revenge. For truth." The article ran with the headline, "From Theft to Triumph: How One Developer Built Better After Being Robbed." They included my photo, my story, and detailed comparisons between my working platform and Victoria's failing one. My phone exploded with messages. Former colleagues apologizing. Industry leaders requesting meetings. And several investors, serious ones, asking about our funding needs and growth plans. Aaron called me the morning the article published, his voice crackling with excitement. "Elena, we've got real leverage now. Check your email." I opened my laptop. 3 separate investment offers, each one substantial enough to fund our expansion for years. "This is incredible," I breathed. "It gets better," Aaron said. "Check the news. Hale Industries is restructuring." The headline appeared on every business news site. "Hale Industries to restructure failing division, seeks buyer for customer retention unit." I read the article 3 times, each word sinking deeper into my understanding. Victoria's division, the one built on stolen work, was being sold off. The CEO was spinning it as strategic refocusing, but everyone could read between the lines. It was a failure, and they were cutting their losses. The article quoted anonymous sources describing internal chaos, technological failures, and customer exodus. One source stated, "The platform never worked as promised. It was like building a house on someone else's blueprint without understanding engineering." Another industry publication ran a side-by-side analysis. "Tale of Two Platforms: How the Original Developer Succeeded Where the Thief Failed." I called Aaron immediately. "Did you see?" "I'm already on it," he interrupted. "Conference call in 1 hour. We need to discuss something important." That hour felt like the longest of my life. I paced my apartment, reading and rereading the articles. Victoria's division was failing. The work she'd stolen from me, implemented badly, was now being sold off in pieces. And somewhere in my mind, a dangerous idea was forming. Aaron's face on the video call was serious but excited. Beside him sat 2 other people I didn't recognize, a lawyer and a financial analyst. "Elena, I want to show you something." Aaron shared his screen, displaying a confidential sale listing. "This came through my network an hour ago. Hale Industries is quietly shopping Victoria's entire customer retention division." I leaned closer to read the details. Assets, intellectual property rights, existing client contracts, personnel. They were selling everything. "Wait." My voice came out as a whisper. "That's her entire department." "Yes. And here's where it gets interesting." Aaron pulled up another document. "Our platform is valued substantially higher than what they're asking for her division. With the right investors, we could acquire it." "Acquire it? You mean buy Victoria's division?" The lawyer spoke up. Technically, you'd be buying back your own stolen work, along with the infrastructure they built around it. The clients they still have would become yours. So would their office space and remaining staff. My mind reeled. This is insane. Is it? Aaron asked. Or is it justice? You built the foundation. They stole it and failed. Now you have the chance to take it back. Legally, publicly, and completely. I stared at the screen, at the numbers and projections. This feels dangerous. Do you want justice or closure? Aaron asked quietly. I thought of Victoria's smirk, of the CEO's dismissal, of 3 years stolen. Both, I answered softly. I want both. The next week moved in a blur of meetings, legal documents, and financial projections. Aaron assembled a team of investors, all of them excited by the poetic justice of the acquisition. We structured it through his investment firm to keep my involvement quiet until the final reveal. I spent my nights wrestling with doubt. Was this revenge? Was I becoming the thing I despised in Victoria, using power to hurt someone who'd hurt me? But then I'd remember the truth. I wasn't destroying her division. It had already destroyed itself through incompetence. I was simply buying back what had been stolen, along with the chance to do it right. The morning before the acquisition meeting, I sat in my apartment and drafted a statement. Not for them, for myself. I'm not doing this for revenge, I wrote. I'm doing it because good work deserves good stewards. Victoria's division is failing not because my ideas were bad, but because she didn't understand them. The clients deserve better. The employees deserve leadership that knows what they're doing. And I deserve to build something lasting from the ashes of what was stolen. I read it 3 times, then deleted it. Some truths didn't need to be written down. They just needed to be felt. Aaron called at midnight. Last chance to back out. I'm not backing out, I said firmly. Let's do this. The acquisition meeting took place in a neutral conference room downtown. Aaron and I arrived early, accompanied by his legal team. We sat on one side of a long mahogany table, reviewing documents while we waited. When the door opened, I kept my eyes on my papers. I heard footsteps, the sound of briefcases being set down, quiet murmuring. Then a voice I'd heard 1,000 times in my nightmares. Thank you for considering this opportunity. Hale Industries is excited to discuss. Theodore Hale stopped mid-sentence. I looked up slowly, meeting his eyes for the first time in almost a year. His face went through a series of expressions: confusion, recognition, shock, and finally something that might have been fear. Elena Brooks. His voice cracked slightly on my name. Mr. Hale. I kept my tone professional, neutral. I believe you know Aaron Keller, lead investor for Brooks Innovation Partners. We're here to discuss acquiring your customer retention division. The silence in that room was absolute. Theodore's lawyer leaned over to whisper something, but the CEO waved him off, his eyes never leaving mine. You're the buyer. He sank slowly into his chair, the confidence draining from his posture. I didn't realize. The firm name didn't ring a bell. I allowed myself a small smile. That's unfortunate. Shall we discuss terms? The door opened again and Victoria entered. She was already talking, not looking up from her phone. Sorry I'm late. I was dealing with another crisis with the platform's coding and... She stopped. Her eyes found mine. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the polished conference table. What is she doing here? Victoria's voice rose an octave, panic bleeding through her usually composed facade. Ms. Brooks represents the lead investor in today's acquisition discussion, Aaron said smoothly, his tone completely professional. Victoria turned to her father, her face pale. You can't be serious. You're not actually considering selling my division to her. Your division. I spoke for the first time directly to her, my voice quiet but firm. The one built on my stolen platform. The one that's been failing spectacularly for 8 months. That division. This is absurd. Victoria looked around the table wildly, seeking support. There must be other buyers. Serious buyers. Aaron pulled out a folder. Actually, Ms. Hale, we're the only buyer who made an offer. And our offer is quite generous, considering the division's current state. Victoria's hands trembled as she gripped the back of a chair. This can't be happening, she whispered. I met her eyes steadily. It is. The negotiation took 6 hours. Every contract clause, every asset, every detail examined and debated. Theodore tried to maintain his CEO composure, but I could see him aging before my eyes as the reality sank in. He was selling his daughter's division to the woman they'd wronged. When we finally reached the signing stage, the room fell silent. Aaron had structured the deal brilliantly. Brooks Innovation Partners would acquire the division, integrate it with our successful platform, and retain the existing employees who wanted to stay. Theodore picked up his pen, then paused. Elena, before we finalize this, I need to say something. Mr. Hale, this is a business transaction. Personal statements aren't. I was wrong. His voice was heavy. When you came to me that day, I chose convenience over truth. I chose my daughter over integrity. I've regretted it every day since. I looked at him. This man I'd once respected, who'd taught me about corporate leadership through his actions, and then through his failures. You taught me everything I needed to know about loyalty, Mr. Hale, I said quietly. You taught me that it's conditional, that it can be bought, that it's less important than family connections. I picked up my own pen. You taught me to never make those mistakes myself. He lowered his gaze as I signed the final document. The division was mine. Without another word, I stood and walked out of the conference room, leaving him to contemplate his choices. Victoria's resignation hit the press the next morning. The business news cycle exploded with the story. Disgraced exec steps down after division sold to developer she'd stolen from. My phone became unusable within hours, overwhelmed by interview requests, congratulatory messages, and inquiries from industry leaders. I turned it off and sat in my apartment, processing what had happened. The following week brought more revelations. Internal memos leaked to the press, documenting Victoria's pattern of taking credit for others' work, her technical incompetence, and the warnings from developers that her implementation of my platform would fail. A former coworker, someone I'd barely known, sent me an email that I read a dozen times. Elena, you really did it. Not just the acquisition, but you showed us all what integrity looks like. Half the team has already requested transfers to work under your leadership. The other half wishes they had the courage to. You built something real while she built a facade. History will remember which one lasted. Marcus. I printed that email and hung it next to Carmen's restaurant testimonial. 2 reminders that success wasn't just about winning. It was about building something worth remembering. The transition took 3 months. I brought in my small team, integrated the acquired division's salvageable assets, and most importantly, met with every employee individually. Many were terrified they'd be fired. Instead, I asked them one question. Do you want to build something that actually works? 70% stayed. The ones who'd been silenced under Victoria's leadership, who'd known the platform was broken but couldn't speak up, who'd watched competent ideas be dismissed in favor of appearances. I established new policies immediately. Credit went to whoever did the work. Ideas would be evaluated on merit, not on who presented them. Technical competence would matter more than corporate politics. We called the first all-hands meeting on a Friday afternoon. I stood before a team of 40 people, my original crew plus the Hale Division survivors, and felt something unexpected. Not triumph, not vindication, just quiet pride. This is how it should have been from the start, I told them. Real work, real recognition, real success built on actual competence rather than stolen credit. The applause started slowly, then grew. These people had survived Victoria's incompetent leadership. Now they had a chance to build something meaningful. Looking at their faces, I finally understood. Revenge wasn't the victory. This was. 6 months later, I stood backstage at the National Innovation Conference, waiting to deliver the keynote address. The same conference where Victoria had once accepted an award for my platform's conceptual brilliance, before it had been built, before anyone knew it would fail. Now I was here, invited to speak about resilience, innovation, and the importance of protecting intellectual property. The conference organizer had specifically requested I tell my story. The introduction echoed through the auditorium. Please welcome Elena Brooks, founder and CEO of Brooks Innovation Partners, to discuss building sustainable customer retention systems. I walked onto the stage, looking out at an audience of 800 faces. Industry leaders, developers, executives. In the third row, I spotted Aaron beaming proudly. Scattered throughout were members of my team, here to support me. And in the back corner I noticed Theodore Hale. He'd come. We'd exchanged emails recently. Professional, distant, but respectful. Perhaps he was learning, too. I began my speech, walking through the technical details of our platform. Then I addressed what everyone really wanted to hear. I could stand here and tell you this story is about revenge, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. But revenge is temporary. What lasts is building something worth remembering. The applause started before I'd finished, swelling until the entire auditorium stood. As the ovation continued, I smiled, not with triumph, but with satisfaction. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply refusing to stay down, refusing to let theft define you, and building something so undeniably real that the truth becomes impossible to ignore. I'd been stolen from. I'd been discarded. I'd been erased. But I'd rebuilt myself into something stronger than what they'd tried to destroy. And that, more than any acquisition or public vindication, was the real victory. The applause roared on, and I let myself feel it, not as revenge but as recognition. Finally, deservedly mine.